Jacob Zuma. The name itself sparks heated debates across South Africa and beyond. To some, he is a freedom fighter, a man who sacrificed his youth for the liberation of his people. To others, he is a symbol of corruption, greed, and the betrayal of Mandela's dream. But one thing is undeniable: Zuma's story is one of survival, resilience, and a lifestyle that very few could ever imagine. Today, we dive deep into the life, wealth, controversies, and empire of Jacob Zuma. And along the way, we will ask the burning question: just how rich is he really in 2025? Before we begin, remember this is the Dawn Edition, where we uncover the untold stories of Africa's wealthiest and most powerful. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because trust me, you don't want to miss what we have lined up next. And as you watch, drop the name of any South African tycoon or political giant you'd like us to cover in our next episode. Zuma's story begins in 1942, in Nkandla, KwaZulu-Natal. Born into poverty, his father passed away when he was very young, and his mother worked as a domestic worker. Zuma grew up herding cattle and goats, with no formal schooling beyond primary education. For most people, such a beginning would mean a life of hardship. But Zuma's destiny was different. At just 17, he joined the African National Congress, and soon after, he became part of untold, the armed wing of the ANC. His political activism landed him in jail. And he spent 10 long years on Robben Island, where he shared cells with legends like Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu. It was here that Zuma cemented his reputation as a loyal revolutionary. Fast forward decades later, and that same young boy from Nkandla would rise to become the president of South Africa. But with the presidency came wealth, power, and scandals that would define his era. Zuma's most famous asset, without question, is his Nkandla homestead. What began as a modest rural home turned into a sprawling palace, worth over $250 million after upgrades. Officially, these upgrades were for security purposes, but South Africans quickly discovered that security included a swimming pool disguised as a fire prevention system, an amphitheater, a cattle kraal, and a chicken run. The Nkandla scandal became a national talking point, with citizens demanding accountability.
You know, some people who could not pronounce Nkandla, they've now learned Nkandla, Nkandla, Nkandla.
Yet despite the outrage, Zuma remained unshaken, often laughing off criticism and singing his trademark song, Mshini Wami, as if to remind his critics that he was untouchable. But Nkandla was just the beginning. Behind the scenes, Zuma's ties to the Gupta family would redefine South Africa's political and economic landscape. The Guptas, a wealthy Indian family who had established themselves in Johannesburg, built an empire of media, mining, and energy companies. With Zuma in power, they allegedly secured billions in government contracts, often referred to as the era of state capture.
Saying that I've auctioned the country. In the NEC, I just do what I like.
It was said that the Guptas could pick ministers, influence cabinet reshuffles, and move billions with a single phone call to the president. And Zuma, through his family and allies, allegedly benefited from luxury cars to mansions, to international trips on private jets. Zuma's son, Duduzain Zuma, became the face of this lifestyle. Duduzain drove Bentleys, Lamborghinis, and Ferraris, living in Santan penthouses, and rubbing shoulders with the elite of Dubai. Many claim Duduzain was the frontman for the Zuma Gupta empire, holding shares in companies that earned billions. The Zuma family became a dynasty, wives, children, and cousins all linked to various deals, tenders, and businesses. What the public saw was a family living in wealth far beyond their salaries as politicians or public servants. Now, how much is Jacob Zuma actually worth in 2025? Officially, not much. His spokespersons and legal team always insist that Zuma is a man of modest means, surviving on pensions and the help of supporters. But the truth is far more complex. Independent analysts estimate Zuma's hidden wealth to be anywhere between $50 million and $250 million, stored not directly in his name, but in trusts, properties, and assets under family members. His Nkandla homestead alone, even stripped of controversy, remains a multi-million rand property. Add to that the access to luxury cars, farms, and private funding from loyal backers. And it becomes clear that Zuma's net worth is far greater than he lets on. But wealth is not just about numbers. It's about lifestyle. Zuma is known for his convoys of black SUVs, often with blue lights flashing, speeding through highways as his bodyguards clear the way. He enjoys traditional feasts, cultural gatherings, and lavish weddings for his many children. His wives and ex-wives live in comfort, with designer clothing, expensive jewelry, and properties of their own. And even now, after stepping away from the presidency, Zuma remains a man of means, attending rallies, throwing parties at Nkandla, and maintaining a public image of power. Yet, with all this wealth came endless legal battles. Zuma has faced corruption charges for over 2 decades, particularly tied to the arms deal of the late 1990s, where he was accused of taking bribes. He has gone to court countless times, often delaying trials, hiring and firing lawyers, and using every legal loophole to avoid conviction. In 2021, his refusal to appear before the Zondo Commission landed him in jail for contempt of court. His arrest sparked violent unrest across KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, leading to looting, riots, and the destruction of businesses, costing South Africa billions. But once again, Zuma survived. Granted medical parole after just 2 months, he returned to Nkandla, where supporters greeted him like a king returning home. In 2025, Zuma's influence continues through his new political project, the Untold Party, MKP. Named after the ANC's former armed wing, this party has shaken up elections, pulling votes from the ANC and proving that Zuma's name still carries weight. His rallies are filled with chants, songs, and loyalists who see him as a victim of political conspiracies. Despite his age, Zuma remains relevant, mobilizing masses and shaping the future of South African politics. But here's the real question: is Jacob Zuma a man of the people, or a man who used the people? His story is one of contradictions. A freedom fighter turned billionaire lifestyle icon. A president who claimed to fight for the poor, while building mansions and enjoying luxury cars. A man who speaks of culture and humility, yet surrounds himself with extravagance. As we continue through the story, take a moment to subscribe to the Dawn Edition. Because the untold stories we bring you are not just about wealth, they're about power, influence, and the truth behind the headlines. And don't forget, drop a name of any South African tycoon or political figure you want us to cover next. Jacob Zuma's empire is not built like that of a business mogul, through factories or corporations. It is built through networks of loyalty, patronage, and influence. His wealth flows not from innovation, but from politics. And yet, despite the corruption scandals, Zuma remains loved by millions. Why? Because he embodies resilience. He has been written off so many times, yet always bounces back. As we reach the end of this journey, ask yourself, is Jacob Zuma South Africa's ultimate survivor, or its greatest betrayer? And before you leave, remember, check the top left corner of your screen for our next powerful video. You don't want to miss it.
You come with meandos, I answer with meandos. Easy. Ask the question, I will answer the question.